Normally speaking, my wife would have played the music, but she had to fly back to Oregon. And so, make a joyful noise unto the Lord. You can push it forward at least, fit the screen better. Isn't it exciting that it's working? Amen. I know when I was connecting it, Dr. Smith was over there. And all of a sudden it came on the screen, he said, so he went from one body motion to another. And thank you so much. I really have appreciated the love and the support and the prayers that we have had with the Smiths and with Linda. And I'm sorry that Dr. Sidney was not here at this time. Known as Sidney's the family for a long, long time. And I knew the father, Dr. Sidney's father, before I knew Sidney. And so it's just a joy that they're here and doing all they can to support the church. And my heart is filled with gratitude to know that there are people still, even in the far east of the United States, that God has His children everywhere. What do you say? It's a wonderful thing to know that. This morning, I was thinking about 5 sermons. How many? 5 sermons. But you only gave me one time for one sermon. So I was going back and forth and God back and forth, back and forth. And so the message will be sharing with you my testimony. Amen. Can we pray together before we begin? Holy Father, it's you that we want to glorify. And we pray for your Spirit to do just that in our hearts. And we come closer to thee, we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. I was born in a little place called Puerto Rico. And one of the things that I've learned as a Christian is to realize that irrespective of where you're born, if you're born with a silver spoon over your mouth or a piece of mud in your mouth, that God should be glorified. This statement in Jeremiah explains it that way. Chapter 9, verse 24. But let him that what? Glory. Glory in this, that he understandeth and knoweth me, that I am the Lord which exerciseth what? Loving kindness, what else? Judgment and righteousness in the earth. For in these things I delight. Who said it? Saith the Lord. What a wonderful text. What he said. Amen. Let them glory in this. Well, I came across this passage which really helped me to formulate and put together this message for you. And it's Colossians chapter 2, verse 10. And it simply says, you are complete in Him. In what? In Him. And that text says a lot to me. And let me explain why. As I mentioned to you, I was born in the island of Puerto Rico. And there's actually where the arrow is pointing to, there's a little town close to what is called San Juan, which is the capital of Puerto Rico. And there's a little town called Santurce, which actually, just so that you know, some Puerto Ricans don't even know this, so maybe this will be enlightening to them. Santurce is actually St. James. Did you know that? Huh? You did not know that. Dulce is another name for James, St. James of the Bible. Santurce. Santiago also, yes. So, we were born there, but we were very poor, very, very poor. Here's where I was born. You see that? We were not permitted to live on solid ground because we were poor and we were what you would call squatters. Have you heard that term before? It was squatters. My mother was a squatter. And so we had to live off on over the bay. And the only way to get to our houses was to use the catwalks. You see that? But that's if you were fortunate enough to build your own catwalk. That means you had to be rich in those days to get yourself a catwalk. And if you didn't have a catwalk, you walked through the mud. And the place was called El Fanguito, which means the mud place. But Fanguito means the little mud place. So this was a little mud place. The only time that the sewer flushed was when the tide came in and went out. Okay? There was no sewer, there was no running water, and so the only time that there was any cleansing was when the tide came in and when the tide went out. So when the tide was in and you wanted to go someplace, what did you have to do? You had to get off your catwalk and get into it. You understand? Consequently, we were always getting sick. We were getting parasites and all that because the dogs and the pigs and everything else was in there, not just the human waste that went into the area. And do you know this is a latrine? Have you heard of the word latrine? This is an outhouse or the john, and you can see that there's no bottom in the latrine, so you know where everything went, right? So that's where I was born, and I can remember as a little boy running around there. My mother was heartbroken over her husband leaving her, and she had 6 children that she had to raise by herself. So, fortunately speaking, she moved us from there to here, New York City. And moving to New York City was a new experience for us because we didn't speak any English. By the time we moved to New York City, I was 6 years old. And mother moved us there, my stepfather, and stepdad went back to Puerto Rico to make more money to send the rest of the boys over, and then he died. So it was a strange situation to arrive in a place that everybody was strange. Somehow, because of the attitude that some Puerto Ricans had against the U.S., everybody who was not Puerto Rican was Americano. That means an American, right? And so we were afraid of the Americanos. They were whites and we were Puerto Ricans. So when I landed in New York City, one of the first experiences I had with an Americano, when he came up to me, he cleared his throat, like he had something terrible to spit out, and he spat on the gutter. And then he said, "Why don't you go back where you came from?" And I had never felt so small as I did at that moment. And I began to feel this complex that I was not worth very much. So in my little mind, I began to try to figure out how I could take away the reproach. And I thought if I could just figure out how to take away the reproach, I would be complete. But how do you become complete? What is it that you do to get there? So I began to try to figure out how I could become complete. I felt very incomplete when that man did that. I began to try to do things in my life that I thought if I could just do this, do that, I will finally meet that level of completeness that would be satisfactory. So I remember starting out roller skating in New York City. In those days, it was the 4 wheels. How many of you ever roller skated when you were young? Okay, you remember the 4 wheels. And the ones that became really popular were the ones that had ball bearings. The first ones didn't have ball bearings, but the second ones had ball bearings. And you had this key that you would have to twist in the front to tighten against your shoes. You remember that? And if your shoes are not good enough, you crumple up your shoes. And then in the back, you tie the strap around your ankle, and you were going. So I thought if I could just become a great roller skater, I'd feel complete. Of course, in a child's mind, you understand. And so I began to roller skate. In New York City, you really have to know how to roller skate. Otherwise, they'll roll over you. So I became an excellent roller skater. I could jump on the sidewalk and keep on skating, and I could jump over the manholes. You know, in New York City, you had those manholes. I could jump over them. And then they actually set up garbage cans that were made out of zinc, you know. And so they could lay down these garbage cans and then see who could actually jump over so many of them. And I remember roller skating and jumping over 8 of them. So I was then champion, you understand? And I thought, you know, I've accomplished it. I almost missed it, but I did make it. And I thought, okay, I should feel what? Complete. But after I accomplished that feat, then it was not enough. And so I was disappointed. Yesterday I was visiting Sister Ursula's house, and the only thing I did do was to jump on that trampoline that you have. Because what I did was, from that I became a trampolinist and began to do stunts on the trampoline. And one of the most difficult feats to accomplish was to do actually a double somersault. Okay? Everybody can do a single or 1.5, but doing a double, you really have to go up high and then really start flipping and coming down on your feet. And I remember everybody getting on the mat and pushing the trampoline up and down to shoot me up as high as possible. And I did the double somersault. And I thought I would feel what? Complete. But that was not long lasting. It's just kind of an exhilaration for the moment, and that's it. So then, girls came into focus. I don't know how that happens, but it does. And so when girls come into focus, I thought if I could have the prettiest girl in the school, I would feel what? Complete. And all the boys were after her, and I thought, I better jump in before they get to her. So I was successful. I got the girl. She was really pretty. And I could remember walking with her, my arm in arm, and seeing the boys green with envy. And I used to say, eat your heart out, boys. Well, that only lasted until summertime came. When the summertime came, school was over for the summer. And she found somebody else that could make her complete. And when that happened, I was brokenhearted. I remember the worst part about it was that there was a song that was called Sealed with a Kiss. Any of you remember that song? And the words were, yes, it's going to be a cool, lonely summer. And as I would hear it, I started crying because I lost my completeness. So I realized then that girls don't make you complete either. So I decided to try something else. And that's when I got into music. By this time I was 12 years old. And you would think, you did all that stuff by the time you were 12, you grow up very fast in New York City. So at 12 we formed a group, a singing group. And that singing group was called Donnie and the Twilights. And what's amazing is that our lead singer, or what the soloist, we used to call the lead singer, we would do what's called a duo today. They call it duo. But you know, that was 3 persons doing harmony, 1 person doing the assimilated bass, and 1 person doing the singing. Donnie was, he had a golden voice. So much so that the Count Basie, I don't know if I'm going to use some names here, some of you may be acquainted with it or not. Count Basie wanted to take him with his band. But fortunately, Donnie and we were very close, we were like brothers, so he decided to stay with us. He had such a voice that when he sang, everybody stopped to listen. It was a gorgeous voice. And of course, we were doing quite well with the harmonies. And we actually got a manager at the time we were 12, and we had our own car. I don't know if you can see that one. That was our first car, brand new Chevy. and you could see our name where? Right on the Chevy, Donnie and the Twilight. So now we had a brand new car with our name on it. The manager took us up to a place called Morris Park in the Bronx, and there we got tailor-made suits, sharkskin. How many of you ever remember sharkskin suits? Any of you? You mean I'm the only dinosaur? Okay, now there's some others. All right, sharkskin suits. And so we came out with these black velvet collars, sharkskin suits, and everybody was wowing about these kids that, were dressed that way. So we were really escalating very quickly in the music arena. But one of the things that we had not anticipated was the consequences of getting into that lifestyle, and was the drugs. At the age of 15, 3 years later, Donnie was found dead overdose in front of his house. It was shattering to us. But we decided to move on. And we established a new group. And that group was called the Vampires. You can see the vampires there. There were 6 of us, and we all had capes. You can see that with the capes, and raised the cape up on the top to have the shadow look like a bat. Can you see that? So we were all vampires. We discovered that if you wanted to get attention, do something stupid. People would give you their attention. So we dressed like vampires. Our car was a funeral hearse. Everything about us was vampires. Drum set had a vampire bat in front of it. The bass guitar had some bats on it. But the focus was on the music. So again, drugs had their effect on the group, and we ended up with 4. So 4 of us, Manny, Louis, Tony, and Mo. Mo Altamuro was the only Italian of the group, and he was from a place called Hoboken, New Jersey. We are fortunate in that we had now 3 managers, not 1 but 3. We had a booking agent, and our manager, the main manager, was one of the borough presidents of New York City. He happened to be the borough president of Brooklyn. So he had some political connections. We became the #1 group of the week in Broadway, and our picture was lighted on Broadway, the Broadway building. He arranged for us performances in different places. So we were able to perform for all the city officials of New York at the Waldorf Astoria. So we were actually sailing quite high. This is me playing the bass guitar. I figured out how to play bass, and I got to the place where I could do the bass behind my back. I could do a split right there. I'm in a split. I could walk on the stage in a split with the bass behind my back and play my solo. So I became quite proficient with the instrument, and there were not too many people who could stand side by side with me. That's not a brag, it was just a reality. And so when we were doing the show business, one of the things that you wanted to do was to become a recording artist. If you became a recording artist, you made it. Okay? So we were feeling pretty good about ourselves. I felt like I was getting to feel quite complete because everybody seemed to adore us. People just seemed to worship us, etc. But you hadn't gotten to the top until you became a recording artist. So here we are. What does it say there? Recording artist. So we became recording artists. We recorded the first record. I remember the recording studio. It was right above the Ed Sullivan Show. I don't know if you remember the Ed Sullivan Show. Some of you kids don't know what I'm talking about. You think I'm talking about the Mummy or something. But the Ed Sullivan Show was a very popular show at one time in the United States. Television show. So we became recording artists, and as I said, we performed in many places. One of the things that in show business you do, you come across other famous people. And one of the persons who used to come to my nightclub to listen to us perform was Buckwheat. How many of you remember Buckwheat? Little black kid, okay. Buckley used to come to our program. By the way, later on, Alfalfa became a Seventh-day Adventist, as well as Waldo. Waldo, I don't know if you remember, Waldo was a kid with big glasses. He was the intelligent kid, you know, who was always well dressed and all that. He also became a Seventh-day Adventist. And his grandfather's a pastor, Pastor Smith, by the way, is his last name, is a pastor out in California, near Loma Linda, okay? So, but Buckley was, he would come to our nightclub. By this time he was much older, okay? And he used to come there with his square suit. Do you remember in those days? They would put stuff in the shoulders so that it looked like you were square. And then it was double-breasted. I don't know how many of you remember the double-breasted square shoulder suits. And he used to always come with a handkerchief, one of those wide-brim hats like the mafia, and he would also have patent leather shoes, black and white patent leather shoes. And so he would come bopping. You know what I mean by bopping? Okay, he would kind of do, you know, did bopping, okay? And he would come into the club, and we'd begin to talk. And as we were talking together, one of the things that I did like was that man had no hope for the future. I was not a believer. I didn't believe in God or anything else. But he loathed the fact that he was too old to be popular, and he wished he could be young again so he'd go back to the same excitement that he lived before. And then, when it was time for me to perform, I would get up to perform, and he would then get up to dance, but he would dance by himself. He'd take out his handkerchief, he would twirl it, and then he would just close his eyes and just go around in circles, around in circles, around in circles, all night long. And I used to think to myself, as I used to watch him, I mean, my heart just would feel this sick feeling inside, saying to myself, I hope I never end up like that guy. I hope I never end up like him. And so we were getting to places, but unfortunately, along with all this came, as I said, the effects of drugs and all that. Our recording studio was right next over here. This used to be the Ed Sullivan Show. It used to say Ed Sullivan here, now it's at the Late Show. And that's our building there where we used to record the records. So it was not unusual to see Barbra Streisand or other people walking around. As I said, we did a performance at the Waldorf Astoria, and I remember when we performed at the Waldorf Astoria, all the big city people were there. And when we finished, it took us up to the penthouse, up to the top floor. And the girls, we have 8 local girls, 4 on one side, 4 on the other side, that would wiggle and waggle as we would perform. They were oohing and ahhing about this handsome Latino. And of course, I didn't know who it was. They kept on saying Placido, Placido. It turned out to be Placido Domingo. They were quite young. You know, Placido Domingos today. So we would come in contact with other people. It was a very unusual situation for kids who were ignorant, uneducated, to be thrown into such an arena where everything was available to us. Everything. And because everything was available to us, it was our undoing. So we got deeper and deeper and deeper into the lifestyle, and there was always these quiet moments when I felt there was something missing. I thought if I could reach this and reach that, do this and do that. We did our first record, and I thought I would feel finally complete. It didn't happen. We did the second record, and now so what? We performed for big performances, and you look forward to the excitement, and once you did it, the excitement was over. It was just one after another, nightclub after nightclub, performance after performance. It was just the same thing. And then those quiet moments would come when we were in the hotel room, whatever. And I'd I knew there was something missing, and I couldn't figure out what it was. I thought if I could just have more money, I feel complete, but it didn't do it. If I could have more girls, I feel complete, it didn't do it. If I could become more popular, it didn't do it. All the things that I thought would finally enable us, you know, we had everything at our disposal, yet no matter what we tried, nothing would satisfy that longing. And I didn't think it had anything to do with God, because at this time I didn't believe in God, but I knew about religion. Because when I was a kid, the altar boy from the Catholic Church, St. Michael's, had the filthiest mouth on the block. The priest used to come to our block to pick up my friends and take them to his apartment. You adults know what I'm talking about. The Jewish kids took me to the synagogue just to show me how they could get drunk for free. While the priests, rabbis were doing their thing, they would go to the refrigerator and drink their Manischewitz wine. So I saw all of that, and I thought religion was just for people who were not too smart up here. It was either for the old or the ugly. So if you were ugly, you might as well go to church because you didn't have the good looks enough to succeed in the world. And if you're old, you might as well go to church anyway. You couldn't do anything with yourself as well. So you either were old or ugly to be religious. Otherwise, if you were handsome and smart and all that, you were out in the world doing your thing. Well, because of the negative attitude I had developed against religion, I actually became cynical toward people who were religious. So even though in all the nightclubs we performed religious music, and let me explain what I'm saying by that, there was always something religious that came into rock and roll. And if I tell you the songs, you would recognize them. Simon Garfunkel, God Bless You, Please, Mrs. Robinson, Jesus Loves You More Than You Can Know, oh, oh, oh. The Platters, My Prayer, Elvis Presley, You See Me Crying in the Chapel, The Righteous Brothers, He Can Turn the Tide and Calm the Angry Seas, He Alone Decides the Righteous Symphony. Though it makes us sad, though it makes them sad to see the way we live, He always says, I forgive. I mean, all of those things were always around us. But we would perform them for people to dance with. It had nothing to us, there was nothing about religion. It was just simply just music that you can tone down the people, because if you get them too excited and keep them with excitement, it would be a riot. So we would raise them up to a high pitch, and then we would find a ballad or something to play so they could tone down, and then so forth. So we would use some of these songs for that purpose. But it was nothing to do with religion. As I said, I was a stranger to divine influences, and I had no use for anybody who was religious. So we're performing, we're doing all those things, and finally we decided to get rid of two of the managers, because we were paying 50% of our income. We were paying 20% to one, 20% to the other, 10% to the other. And that's why when I became a Seventh-day Adventist Christian, I thought God presented a great deal. He was only asking for 10% rather than 50%. And so I didn't want to continue to pay these all this money, so I encouraged the band members to break away from the manager. We can manage ourselves, all we need is a booking agent, that's all we need. And so we broke away from the manager, but I forgot one important detail. He owned our equipment. So when we got rid of our manager, we got rid of our equipment. So now we didn't have anything to play with. The drums were gone, etc. The amplifiers were gone and all that. And in that particular time, we were performing in a nightclub that was associated with the mafia. So we told the owner that we couldn't perform anymore. He said, you have to perform. We can't. Well, you have to. We don't have any equipment. Well, I'll get you some equipment. We'll work it out. Because by this time, he had broken the wall and extended his dance hall. We were very, very, very popular in that area. It was called Lee Summit near Jersey City, New Jersey, or Union City, New Jersey. And so he said, come back the next day. So we returned back the next day, And he took us to another nightclub in Bayonne, and there were the Bayonne brothers, which were the mafia. And when we went into the nightclub, he introduced us to who would become our godfather. And so he took us to a music store, and he said, "Get anything you want." We said, "Anything?" He said, "Yeah, anything you want." So we went hog wild, getting everything, amplifiers and echo chambers and reverbs and microphones and mic stands. We got everything. New guitars and new drums and all that. And we were just amazed to see him pull out a wad of money out of his pocket and just pay it cash. So we went back to his nightclub, and he said, "Okay, boys," he used to have a big cigar in his mouth, "and now you're going to have to sign a little contract." See? So we signed the contract, and now the mafia was our manager. When I had entered into that nightclub, I had seen pictures of Frank Sinatra and other famous artists who were being supported by this particular group. And so we now felt that we were in good company, you understand? And we couldn't believe it, how things had turned for our good. Now we had the mafia behind us, and we could just sail up. Well, the lifestyle kept on bothering me. Tony, the one who was the youngest of the band, and Mo and Manny, that were deep into drugs. Tony was the worst. And then Tony would find out the secrets of the mafia, and he kept on wanting to share it with me, and I didn't want to hear it, because my oldest brothers used to be in gangs and all that, and they used to say, one thing you never want to do is you never want to get into the mafia, because once you're in, you can't get out. So I didn't want to hear any more about how they got rid of people, how they murdered people, or how they did this, how they did that. But Tony was just always anxious to get all the juicy tidbits that he could. And so finally I decided I needed to get out of there. And I quit the band. And I was expecting that they would break my legs for doing so. But they didn't. I found out later on why. But they did. Now I didn't know what to do. The quest to be complete was kind of gone. I was no longer playing with the band. I was now on my own. And so I went to a place called Greenwich Village. Let's see if I have it here. Down the Cafe Wild. This is in New York City, called Greenwich Village, which is a very famous artsy area. And when I was in the Cafe Wild downstairs, listening to a friend of mine perform, somebody else came into the nightclub and was talking to him during the break, and he pointed to me. So the man came to me and said, "I understand you play bass." I said, "I do." So he said, "How would you be interested in joining another band?" I said, "What band?" He said, "Bill Haley and the Comets." I said, "Get out of here." And I said, "Get out of here," because I knew who Bill Haley and the Comets was. They were the ones that started Rock Around the Clock, you know, the song Rock Around the Clock. They were the theme song for Happy Days, for those of you who remember Happy Days. And so in New York City, there are a lot of fakes, a lot of phonies, and they tell you that they own the Brooklyn Bridge so they can sell it to you. You know, you get to kind of sniff out phony. And so I thought he was one of these phony, portraying himself like he was connected with Bill Haley the Comet. So he said, "Well, are you interested or not?" I said, "If it's true, yes. If it's not true, of course not." So what do I need to do? Audition. So I got together with him the following day, and "Can you play this?" "Yeah." "Can you play that?" "Yes." "Can you play this?" I played everything, because everything was by ear. If I heard it, I could play it. So he said, "You're on." And I couldn't believe it that I was now a member of Bill Haley and the Comets. Now, for a young guy who grows up, born in the mud place in Puerto Rico, and now is playing with the most famous rock group in the world, that was considered to be quite an accomplishment, you understand. And I thought that now I would be complete. I made it to the top. Made it to the top. But as soon as I began to perform with them, I was disillusioned. I thought I'd get away from all the drugs and all the stuff, all the mafia and everything that was going on, but it didn't happen that way. But 2 years before this experience, I was in this building here at nighttime. We had a motorcycle gang that would follow us around the fan club. And they rented the top apartments, all 4 apartments up on the top. Because they were growing drugs up on top of it, in the rooftop. They wanted to control the access to the roof. And they had a drug party. And they wanted us to be there because they were our fan club. So we went. And after everybody got intoxicated, high, drunk, whatever you want to say, somebody raised the question, who's God? And we got into this deep discussion about God. I can still remember details of our conversation. Frankly, I don't know why I can still remember, because I was also a partaker of the drugs, etc. All I know is that for some reason I remember the details. And there I heard for the first time in my life the great controversy in the Bible, the fall of Adam and Eve, and all that was taking place. And I can't tell you if it was an angel or if it was somebody who had somehow fallen away and in a drunken condition could only tell the truth that he knew. You understand? I don't know which, but I do know this, that we spent the whole night trying to figure God out. And when we finished that night, I left at 4 in the morning, as I was driving home, an awful, terrifying thought struck me. If there is a God, I'm in serious trouble. And that thought was something that I didn't want to entertain. So I just put it on my mind. But I'll never forget it. I was struck as I was driving. If there is a God, I'm in serious trouble. So now, forward 2 years later, I'm performing with the Comets. Here's a newspaper article just to prove to you that I was a Comet. Here I am there. Can you see my mugshot? Right here. And you can see here in the article, they used to call me Little Luke. So, the guys that are up there, Bill Haley, of course, Rudy Pompey was the one that played the saxophone. And he's the one that wrote Yakety Sax, if you have ever heard Yakety Sax. Johnny Lane was the drummer, we call him Bang Bang, because that's what he did, he banged. Bill Miller was a guitar player, Bill Fay was another guitar player, and I was a bass player. Unfortunately, one of the boys had a $200 a day drug habit. That's in 1967. How much? $200 per day drug habit. He was so skinny that we had to take his tuxedo. He would button up in the front, and in the back we would straight pin it. So it looked like it fit. Kept on losing weight from his drugs. And I don't know how he ever performed, because he was always drugged up. Unfortunately, Bill and Rudy would lock themselves up in the room and get drunk. And you didn't see them until sometime in the afternoon later on that day. And so I was very disenchanted, thought that I would reach finally the apex of my experience in show business. And the only thing that kept me going was the promises that Rudy said, "You're too good for us." And he said, when we get to Hollywood, I'll introduce you to the people in Hollywood so you can just keep on climbing. Then something exciting came. We were going to do a world tour. And in that world tour, we were going to go to France, and we were going to go to Germany, we were going to go to England. And we were actually going to have a competition with the Beatles. By that time, the Beatles had become popular. And I was looking forward to competing against Paul McCartney, against bass and all that. And so, I was really, really, really anxious to go. I thought, this is it. This would be really exciting. But we took a 2-week break, and I went home to New York City. I was down in Florida at the time. And we went home to New York City to relax until we had to leave again. When I got home, greeted my mother, went to relax. I was trying to get into the bedroom, but I couldn't open the door all the way. It was like something was behind the door, and I thought it was a rollaway bed that mother kept in the room just in case one of us showed up. Because we were 6 boys, and she always had to make provision for all of us to sleep someplace. So I put my head through the door to push the rollaway bed. It was my brother Willie on his knees. He was praying. And he was praying for me. And that scared me. Because I thought, because my mother was into spiritism, I thought he was trying to put a spell on me. So I went to my mother and I said, what in the world is going on with Willie? Oh, he's religious, leave him alone. And Willie came to talk to me about Jesus. And I told him, I don't want to hear any of that stuff. Keep it to yourself. Don't talk to me. Well, you don't understand. I understand if you keep on talking to me, we're going to have to fight. That's the way I used to settle things. So he left me alone. And 2 days later, my oldest brother, who was a terrorist, shows up and begins to talk to me. And he mentioned that he was going to get baptized. And when I heard the word Adventist, I thought that was the name of the disease that I had. I'd never heard of the word Adventist before. And so I thought something, these guys are sick. They don't smoke anymore, they don't drink anymore, they don't womanize anymore. What do these guys do to be alive? And so he invited me to go to his baptismal service. And because he was the oldest boy, and he was like a father, he actually worked to help my mother support the rest of the boys. I went to church. When I got to church, I looked like a Christmas tree. My shirt was a Tom Jones shirt, which was open down to the belly button to show how macho you are, And the kind of a bloomer sleeve, you know what I'm saying? And then I had 10 rings on my finger, and long hair down to my shoulders. My pants were hip hugger, rainbow color, and bell bottom, So it was rainbow color, hip hugger, bell bottom pair of pants, and boots on. So I showed up to church. That's why I said I looked like a Christmas tree. So as I went in there, I could notice that people were gawking at me, staring at me. And I didn't like that. So I sat in the back pew and kind of slumped down, got out of view. And it seemed like it was being noised abroad. The bass player of the Comets is in church today. You know how people are, right? So I was watching to observe what this baptism was all about. So my sister-in-law gets in the front and the minister says something, puts her in the water, she comes up, she's crying. And I thought, silly women, they always cry about nothing. And then my brother then steps in, and he is put on the water. He comes up, he's crying too. Now I'm in trouble. I had never, ever seen my brother cry. Even though there were times that he was beaten up, I never saw my brother cry. When I saw him crying, then the thought of 2 years before came back to my mind. Could they have found God? And if there is a God, I'm in trouble. I didn't want to believe it because I didn't want to be in. So I tried to shrug it off, but I couldn't shake the fact that there was something different about my brothers. And I could not explain it. And they kept on talking about this book. And I couldn't understand how anybody could sit and want to read a book. For what? And they just seemed to have joy, pleasure, sitting down, spending hours reading this book. So, could they have found God? I left the church, and I began to feel trouble. And as I felt troubled, I wanted to get out of town. But I was afraid, because in my mind I thought, if he's up there watching me, I got to be careful how I do this thing. I want to escape, but I don't want to submit to this stuff. Because I began to put two and two together. If I become a Christian, I won't have any fun. You understand? The typical thinking of a non-Christian who's never experienced the joy of Christ. If I become a Christian, I won't have any fun. And then I'd have to abandon my position. I began to think of all the things. I would have to give up drinking. I have 4 women. I would have to quit the 4 women. I mean, I began to figure it out, take an inventory of what I'd have to do. And I didn't want to do that. So I then began to bide my time with the hopes that once the time came for me to go, I had to go. And therefore, if there is a God, he can't be too upset with me because I have to go back to what I need to do. It's amazing how we begin to rationalize, you understand? So when the day before I was supposed to leave, I got a telephone call. Bill Miller called me up and said, the meeting had been postponed, the tour had been postponed. Oh, no. I'm going to have to face the music. So what I did, I determined to prove to God that I needed this lifestyle. So I searched for a place where I can go dancing. And there was a hotel, I don't know if I have the picture here or not, there it is. It was called, this hotel was the hotel in Brooklyn, New York, that had the largest saltwater swimming pool in the world. It burnt down. But, so I went to this hotel. And when I got to this hotel, I began to dance. And I danced and danced and danced and danced. And I was a professional dancer. So I'm dancing and dancing and dancing until midnight. Midnight, I decided to go up to the balcony and to scan over the floor to see what other girl I could find whose talents were commensurate to mine so I could dance with her. So I'm watching down, and in those days the beehive was the hairdo. Ladies, how many of you remember the beehive? Okay. And the dances were the monkey, the chicken, the dog, the waddle. Any of you remember those dances? The monkey and the chicken and all that. But you kids, just so that you know, a monkey was somebody who would act like a monkey on the dance floor. The waddle was somebody waddling like a duck. The chicken, of course, was acting like a chicken. And the dog I won't describe. Anyway, so all of these dances are going on. And in those days, people had to go well-dressed to a dance. Not today. Today you can go with blue jeans, whatever. In those days, you had to go with suit and tie, and the girls, of course, well-dressed, etc. So here I'm looking down from the balcony, and all of these people are just jumping up and down. And before I said, oh, look at her, oh man, she could really ride it, oh, look. And this time, that didn't happen. This time as I'm looking down, all of a sudden, I saw a different picture. I saw intelligent human beings thinking that happiness came from acting like an animal. But I had never seen it that way before. And I was struck with horror to think that I was one of the first to get down there, thinking that if I could act like an animal, I would be happy. And all of a sudden it began to dawn on me that all this time that I've been doing all this, I've been excited but not happy. There's an exhilaration that comes when people are clapping and applauding and whistling and all that for you. It's an exhilaration, just like a drug. You can feel the exhilaration. But then when it's not there, there's this downtrend. And so as I watched that, I stepped back and I said, I don't want to continue to do this. And I looked up to the ceiling and I said, God, if you're there, do for me what you've done for my brothers. right there, I made my decision that whatever it meant to follow God, I was going to do it. So I left that dance, and I went home. When I got home, things intensified. I began to feel more guilty about my lifestyle. I began to feel lost. I had never felt lost before. And I began to try to talk to God. I had never been taught how to pray. You know, it's different when you're taught how to repeat something. Hail Mary, full of grace, etc. Our Father who art in heaven, etc. Then to actually know how to talk to God. And so there I was, standing there, and I began to talk to God. I began to confess the miserable life I've been living and the plastic life I've been living. And I wanted to change it. I wanted to quit the drugs. I wanted to quit all the stuff. How? But the more I talked, the more guilty I felt. And finally I sank down to my knees. And I sank down to my knees. I felt something wet and warm in my cheeks, and I didn't know what it was. So I looked up to the ceiling to see if there was something dripping from the ceiling. And there was nothing dripping from up there. I was crying, but I did not know that. It had been a long time since I cried. Amen. And I did not know that the wet and warm were tears coming out of my eyes. And then I realized that I was struggling for my salvation. I felt like I was struggling for my life. And then I asked God to please take it away. Do what? Take it away. Please take it away. I no longer wanted to hang on to the excitement, to the dazzling, flashing lights, etc. I no longer wanted to hang on to the women, to the drugs, etc. I simply said, take it away. No. And a peace came over me when I said that. And when that peace came over me, I stood up. I felt different. And then I realized that something had happened inside. That the longing for these things was gone. Praise God. And I realized that God had performed a miracle. Instantly, the desire for marijuana, for drugs, for alcohol, for cigarettes, all of that left. And from that day on, from that moment on to today, I have never felt the desire or the need to ever touch that stuff again. God performed a miracle. And I needed that because I did not know yet. I had no idea who he was. But what a joy it was to finally find out. I stood up and I decided that I was going to get rid of everything. So I did. The 10 rings I had on my fingers, I took them off. I thought, why am I wearing this stuff? Just to show off. So I took them all off and threw them in the garbage can. I don't know how much money I threw away, but it was not important to me. What was important to me was I wanted to make a break from that, which was the past. You understand? I took up my flashing clothing. I had tuxedo, burgundy, and gold, and blue tuxedos and all that. I took all of that and gave it to my mother. I said, give them to the poor. I took my equipment, my amplifiers and all that. I sold them for $20. I took all my pictures. I only have a few pictures because I was able to retrieve some. But I took all the pictures. I threw them all. I wanted to be completely free from all of that stuff. Because I had never felt complete in them until that moment when I felt that peace come over me. And it felt like a great burden had rolled off my shoulders. And at last, I felt complete. Amen. Hallelujah. Praise God. And so, then I had a challenge. Now I had to start making things right. And with those 4 women, I kept on telling them I loved them, I was going to marry them. But just a ploy to keep on just getting from them what I wanted out of them. So then I went from one to another, to another, to another. It was a hard thing to do, but I confessed to them. I said, look, all this time I've been telling you I love you. I've just been used, and I want you to forgive me. I've decided to follow God, and I can no longer stay in this relationship. They cried, I cried, but I needed to make a clean break from all that. Went to the next one, the next one, the next one. And it was a hard thing to do, but by God's grace, I wanted to do that which is right. I didn't want to continue to live a plastic life anymore. I have found the one that made you complete, and I did not want anything to take the place of him. I decided to make sure that everything was gone, clean. And so by God's grace, I made the change. Later on, years later, I did not know that in a website, there it is down below. I was in Austria, and one of the youth pastors asked me about my past life, and I said, well, I used to be a play with building the commons. And he didn't believe me. I didn't know he didn't believe me. So the next day he came to me and said, you were telling us the truth. I said, what do you mean? I'm a pastor, why would I tell you a lie? He said, well, I know, you said you play with the building the commons. He said, man, I know who building the commons is. And you playing with the commons? Nah, he said, so I went and did search it out in the internet. And he said, I found something. I said, what'd you find? He said, you were telling me the truth. I said, what do you mean I'm telling you the truth? It's in the website. I said, show it to me. So he showed it to me. And it was Lou Torres, Puerto Rican-born musician who replaced Al Rapp on the bass guitar for a tour, late 67, early 68. Prior to work with Haley, Torres was a member of a group called the Vampires around his time with the Comets. Torres, what? No, Torres didn't find religion. Religion never satisfies the longings of the heart. Not about religion. It's about a person, Jesus Christ. Torres found, or should I say, Torres allowed Jesus to catch up with him. I surrendered to Christ, made a complete change in my life. And one of the things that I always thought why I could not follow Christ was because I thought if I quit show business, what would I do? I don't have any education. I don't have any training. I'd have to go back and work in a dingy old factory like the immigrants again. Because I worked in a factory, machine shop. But it was a humiliating thought to drop from stardom down to an immigrant again. And I thought it would be too humiliating for me. But when I gave my heart to Christ, that pride left me as well. And I was so glad to go back to a machine shop and work in a machine shop. It felt good to be human again. And I worked at that machine shop until I got drafted. And once I got drafted, I went into the military during the Vietnam War. But because I had learned that God is powerful, I trusted in God. And the Jew who hired me in that machine shop, when I told him I was drafted, he said, don't worry about it. I can get you off the draft. I know the colonel personally. I said, I don't want you to do that. If God wants me to go to Nam, I'll go to Nam. He said, you're crazy. There's no God, he said. And he said, besides, I can get you off. Why go and get killed? I said, I'm not looking to get killed. I'm looking to serve God. And I said, I don't want to continue to manipulate my life the way I was, because it never amounted to anything. I want God to lead in my life. He said, but you're crazy, there is no God. I said, to you there's no God, but to me he's very real. So I didn't let him get me off. I let the Lord keep me on. I followed the Lord. I went overseas, and in every occasion that I had, I put my trust in God, and God performed miracles for me. The one who changed my life, he delivered me from this and from that and from this and from that. And praise God, I went through, came back, and I'm still here today. Oh, boys, he has never failed me. From that moment that he touched my life and changed my life, I thought I would just end up working in a factory the rest of my life until Jesus came. But it didn't matter to me. At least I thought I was following Jesus. At least now I feel complete. And I don't want to give him up for anything. But instead of working in a dignity factory, I went to the military. From the military I came back. And today I travel the globe around the world. I've been to much more countries than I would have ever been with the college. And the beautiful thing is, whereas before I was simply getting people to worship me, now I get people to worship the Lord. Amen. What a difference. What do you say? Amen. I found that completeness is not about the house you have. For those of you who are old enough can relate to what I'm saying. When you're young, you think, man, if I could just buy my house, I'll be happy. So you buy your house, and then what? Those of you who wanted to get your first car, man, if I could get my first car, I'd be happy. So you got your car, then you got another car, and now what? Do you understand what I'm saying? Oh, if I can just get a motorcycle. Oh, if I can get this, if I can do that. If I can do this, if I can do that. If I can accomplish this, accomplish that. I can tell you, I've been around people who are millionaires, people who are billionaires. I've been around people who are famous, etc. And nothing satisfies like Christ living in your heart. Nothing fills the heart as Jesus can to make it complete. But here's the problem. You must allow him. You must what? You must allow him. He will never push his way. He will never force you. He waits for you. In fact, he says, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and sup with him, and he with me. Notice it says, I stand at the door and knock. I'll never force my way into your life. But what a loss if you don't allow him in. What a terrible loss if you don't allow him in. So perhaps today there are people here that you have been thinking that you will do this or you'll do that, or if I can accomplish this, if I can accomplish that. And there's no question that there are things in life that can bring satisfaction. But there's a spot inside the heart that can only be filled by God. No matter what you do, you'll always feel that nagging emptiness that I felt because I tried to fill it with everything else, but never could accomplish until I discovered the reality that Jesus wanted to fill his own spot that he had made in my life. Amen. What about you? Amen. There's somebody here today who is blessed by the message and say, you know, I've been doing this. I've been going here and doing this and doing that. And I couldn't relate to what you're saying. I need to give myself to God. I need to make that surrender. I need him to live in my life. I need him to guide my life. Is anyone like that today? Just like to lift up your hands to him. Say, Lord of heaven, I want to have that completeness that you are able to give to those who open their hearts to you and who are willing to follow you all the way. Anybody would like to raise their hand today? God bless you. Amen. Amen and amen and amen. Friends, listen. There is no better way. There is no other way. He alone can make you feel complete. He alone. And those of you who have found him can testify with me that it is true. Amen. Any of you can testify to that? Amen. Found him, you know it is true. And what a joy it is to know that you're walking with the Lord, that he's walking. When I wake up, the first thought that comes to my mind is the Lord. I thank him for everything he does for me. I recognize the miracles he performs for me, the things he does. And it's just amazing the constant things that my Lord does. And so I rejoice in following Him. And I pray that those of you here today who are listening to these words will not be thinking about all that you did for Torres, but rather all that He can do for you. Amen. When I was in the Army, I was put in a choir, military choir. There I am singing with a military choir. And that was a miracle in itself. So I thought it was the end of my career. Then I married a good lady. I thought I'd have to give up music. And I married my beautiful wife, unfortunately not with us right now. She turned out to be a concert violinist. And now I had to learn how to do classical music. What a difference from playing rock and roll. I told her one time we were practicing together, and she slowed down, and I said, "You missed a beat." I didn't know the level of expertise a person has to get to be a concert master, you understand? I was very ignorant. So I said to her, "You missed a beat." And she said, "You know what's wrong with you?" I said, "No." He said, "You're all law and no grace." Oh, it makes sense to me. Because rock and roll is boom, 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 you understand? With other music, you have to breathe, you have to rest, etc. And once she said that to me, I thought, that makes sense. So I began to learn how to play music with her. And this is in Channel 7 in New York City, 47. I look like a young kid, don't I? So my wife and I do classical and religious music now. I thought it would be the end, but God just changed my taste. I began to play different music than I used to. So if you ask me to play rock around the clock, I don't think I can do it anymore. I haven't done that thing since I was converted. But I can tell you that there's a rock that I trust in, and that's what's important. And so I have found a completeness in Christ. He has brought to me so many different things in life. And I would have never dreamed that I would ever be a pastor. And here I am today. I can tell you, friends, I just rejoice in the Lord. Solomon had the same experience. Solomon tried to find completeness in things, but he finally recognized that he could not find completeness in things. He said, "I looked on all the works that my hands had wrought, on the labor that I had labored to do. Behold, all was what? Vanity, what else? Vexation of spirit. And there was no profit under the sun." He did everything he thought he could do. And he discovered that it was all what? Vanity. Friend, there's nothing more precious than peace in your heart when you know you are with God. There's nothing that compares to it. So young people, if you're here, give yourself to God when you're young. Don't wait to become a foolish person like me and have to go through all the agony and all the scars that I carry from the times that I was in that life. Avoid the scars. Give yourself to God when you're young. Decide you're going to follow God and that you're going to let God use you rather than you using people. Because if you are not being used by God, the only alternative is for you to use people. And so, give yourself to God. What do you say? Amen. Don't wait until you get older. And you folk that are older, what are you waiting for? You don't have long to live. Whatever life you have to live, live it for God. What do you say? Amen. Decide you're going to follow the Lord and be a blessing to others. Bring the Lord to their lives and find your completeness only in Him. Let's pray together. Our Father, how gracious you are, how merciful, how kind, how long-suffering, how compassionate you are. That you are willing to take somebody like myself out of the mud of life and cleanse and purify and set me up as thou hast promised up by the high places of the earth. Lord, there are so many here today, those who have not yet made you first in their lives. And I pray that today they will not leave this place without making that commitment. And those who have made the commitment, may they renew their vows today to you. And save us at last, we pray, in your kingdom. In Jesus' name, amen. Now we're going to sing a closing hymn.